Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We have a very interesting topic, which is Clil, Content Language Integrated Learning. So today we have Ileana Ruvalcaba. She's going to be our speaker today. Let me introduce Ileana. I'm going to read her bio so we can all have an idea who is going to be with us today. Ileana Elizabeth Ruvalcaba Rivas es originaria del estado de Jalisco, licenciada en negocios internacionales y maestra en dirección de mercadotecnia, especialista en imagen personal, investigación de mercados y marketing político. Cuenta con certificación en idioma inglés por el Trinity College London y certificado TOEFL ITP. Consultora empresarial en áreas de mercadotecnia y negocios, docente a nivel licenciatura para diversas universidades públicas y privadas, directora de tesis, conferencista y tallerista a nivel nacional e internacional en temas relacionados a negocios y mercadotecnia. Docente de inglés a nivel superior y emprendedora social. Actualmente se desarrolla como directora general de IMARC Consultores, agencia de marketing en la ciudad de Guadalajara, Jalisco, en México. Docente de asignaturas presenciales en la Universidad de Guadalajara, sede CUSEA. Facilitadora y docente en línea en la Universidad Latinoamericana en Ciudad de México. Asesor externo en UDP o University of Dayton Publishing en ediciones CCM por los últimos 2 años. Diseñadora pedagógica de materias en línea para la Universidad UTEG en el estado de Jalisco, en México, y certificada como capacitadora y dedicada a la impartición de talleres en mercadotecnia digital, ventas, imagen, liderazgo en estudiantes y emprendedores, y además dirige la Fundación sin fines de lucro Tour Pinta una Sonrisa, dedicada a labor social en el estado de Jalisco, en México. Thank you, Ileana, for joining us today to share with us this very interesting topic, which is Clil, Content Integrated Learning. Remember that this is an interactive workshop, so we really expect you to participate through the chat. We're going to have several questions. We're going to have reflection moments, so you are very welcome to write, and we will post all your comments. Thank you, Ileana, again, and please feel free to start as soon as you want. Ileana, I'm sorry. I think your micro is off, so please help us to turn it on.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Sorry.
Thank you so much, Ileana.
Perfect. I'm going to start again. Hi, everyone. Hi, teachers. Thank you for being here today. As Abdel told you, my name is Ileana Ruvalcaba, and it's a pleasure of being here today, and that I can share with you a little bit of my knowledge and my experience teaching. And today I'm going to talk about Clil, Content Language Integrated Learning. So feel free, everyone. If you have any question, anytime, you can use our chat to ask, and feel free to do it, okay? I'm going to share now my presentation. Okay, I don't know if you can see it.
We can see along now, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to start right now, and I'm going to to put my chat here so I can read your comments anytime. Perfect. Okay, As I told you, teachers, the topic that we're going to develop today is content language integrated learning. Okay, first of all, I want to show you the objectives of today's session that will be 3. The first one is to explore the principles and advantages of Clil as a method for language teaching. The second objective of today is to learn some concrete Clil teaching frameworks and strategies that you can use or implement in your classes. And the last one is to reflect about the roles of teachers and students in a Clil classroom. Okay, so I'm gonna start. First of all, as a way of introduce this topic, I want to talk about how can we learn a language. So I put 6 different authors right here that talks about how to learn or how to learn a language, a new language, okay? So I want you to read, please, those definitions, and I'm going to start explaining each of them. And after that, we're going to discuss about those definitions and which one are like traditional ways of teaching or traditional ways of learning, or which one are more innovative or creative for nowadays, okay? So first of all, we have Sanders Tucker. He says that language, or to learn a language, we need to practice rules and translate. So this is a mix between having rules and having a structure, or plus a structure, okay? The second author says that a way to communicate orally, that's how we learn a language. How can we do that? It's by constant and direct contact with the language, but without using our native language. That is pretty important for Berlitz, because it's, for example, there are many programs in other countries that if you want to learn a new language, in this case English, you have to move there for between 6 or 12 months, and they get a warranty that you're going to speak, write, listen, and read and understand the whole language in that period of time. That means, or that goes closer to Berlitz's definition, that he says that we need to contact, or we need to stay closer with the language, but without using your native language. That means you don't have to mix, or you cannot mix both languages. You need to quit or forget about your native language and get into the new language with the whole environment, so you can learn better, okay? The third definition, it's made by Wilkins. He says that it's a tool to interact. And to learn a language, we need to use that tool, but in different situations of our daily lives, okay? Instead of that, Asher says that it is a mental faculty developed by contact with others. And to learn a language, we need to use the whole body to communicate. He refers to this when I start learning the language. And I remember that when I wanted to say something, because at the very beginning, you're not an expert, you don't know how to express. So I used to use my whole body, mimic my hands, my head, and my body to communicate, to talk with my teacher, and to communicate the information that I want to say. Okay, so Asher says the same thing, that we need to use our body to communicate, and this is a natural process. Next, Lewis says that it is a relationship between words, that learning a language is to understand and command vocabulary. Okay, and finally, Jeremy Harmer, it's a British teaching expert. He says that a language, it's an instrument for communication, and that we gradually command a process by tasks or by communicating tasks based on the student's needs. This is the last definition, but I think it's one of the most important because the past authors didn't focus their ideas on student needs. So I think focusing nowadays in our students' needs, you know, some of our students learn by listening, another one by writing, by watching or looking. You have like different type of abilities. So we need to center in our students' needs to develop better classes for them. So who thought it's better? This is a kind of a space where I can where I want to listen to you. In this case, I'm not gonna listen to you. I want you to write here what are the main difference the authors described. So if you want to use the chat, I'm very pleased of reading you. Whose ideas do you agree with the most? Or whose ideas do you think are no longer used? In your experience, teachers, I can see teachers from Coahuila, from Ecuador, San Miguel de Allende, Yucatán, Jenny from Ecuador. Ecuador, we have a lot of people from Ecuador. Thank you so much. Puebla and, okay. I want to, and Guadalajara, thank you, Barbara. Okay, so what do you think about these teachers? Here says, I think Maximilian Berlitz and James Asher said is true and right. Let me see. And it's right for me. Okay, Berlitz says it's a way to communicate and without using our native language, and Asher says we use the whole body. Okay, this is a pretty social condition of learning, right? As using our body, as using the language, and getting into a new culture without or forgetting about our native language. Thanks, Anonymous. This is Anonymous. Okay. Someone says structure and instruments to teach, like rules or movement, the methodology. Perfect. Okay, so you think we need the structure and we need instruments as a teachers to teach, right? But we need to follow rules and movements. Okay, we need that to communicate. That's right. That's a methodology of learning. Totally true. Another one that wants to share with us your opinion, I'm here to comment about this. I want you to read all the comments so we can share our experiences teaching English all over the world, because I can see people from a lot of countries. I can infer that the teaching English can be in different ways. Of course, Fidel, we cannot just focus on one of these ways of thinking or focus on just one definition. We can mix those definitions about what learning is, right? With the same goal, but different developed skills. Okay. The whole body language helps a lot, right? Because I can remember the first time I was like 16 years old when I first went to United States, and I remember that I was so nervous to communicate with other people, and I can remember that I was using my whole body, you know, like my hands and all the mimic stuff, so I can share with other people what I was trying to ask or what I was thinking at that moment. I agree with Jeremy Harmer, since it is a task-based process. Perfect. Gracias, Ana Cimarrón. Anonymous. All the experts know what they say. They are okay, but sometimes the mother language has to be used. Right. And obviously, in some cases, not all of it, but for example, when there's a student that doesn't understand even you are explaining with a whole environment, or you're trying to teach, creating a whole situation, helping the student to infer a definition, and maybe he can't understand the meaning. You can use your mother language to explain them, or use it as a student to communicate something. It's not incorrect, but we have many strategies that we will see later, okay? Teresa, I think the differences are the purpose and the ways you learn. And in the last one, I think, as you said, they make it account the needs of the students. Okay, perfect. Because, you know, nowadays it's pretty difficult to connect with our students. I don't know if you agree with this, but it's total complicated action to connect with all my students. We need to focus on their different ways of learning and give them different strategies so they can learn in a better way, right? Anonymous, several environments of learning teaching, right? Lydia, they were all good in their teaching time. As we can see, the teaching English times evolution, right? This is a comment for yesterday's conference with my colleague Ana Cecilia Caballero. She was introducing you the different skills that we would use today for now for our new students, right? Our generation X, or generation the millennial generation, and obviously teaching using new devices, new information, new information. It's required to improve our teaching skills. I agree with Maximilian Berlitz. I think that practice is the better way to learn a new language, but we need to know the structure too. Okay, yes. For example, here in Mexico, we have a pretty famous school for teaching English and learning, obviously. And they say that you need to first to learn by listening, learn by speaking, and the last part is to the teachers introduce you the structure. So you first get involved with the language, you speak, you listen, and you try to produce using your receptive skills and producing new information. But at the end, you use like the structure and everything. This is kind of complicated, but it's a methodology that it's proved. Berlitz is right. Of course, learning a language is a matter of being in contact with the culture. Totally agree with Harmer. Each student is a whole different world as well as their needs, where we have to focus on. Perfect. I agree with Jeremy Harmer. The most structure is important, but it isn't the most important to learn. Perfect. It's a combination of all. Stephanie, students' needs is really important so we can adapt new strategies. Right. Students' needs are really important since we adapt new strategies. I will combine all the concepts, says Anonymous. Adan, I think we need to create the need of using the language through communicative activities in different situations. That's right, Adan, because we give them the information, so then after that they can use that information to communicate in their own way, okay? Wow, I agree the most with Berlitz, Wilkins, and Asher as in experience learning the language like this. I learned Spanish by interacting and trying to communicate with my classmates, culties. Perfect, thank you so much. We have a lot of comments right now. Jenny, I agree with Asher and Harmer. I think that practice makes masters. Using the body and using the language in a natural atmosphere or everyday living, just like they learn their native language. Perfect, yes. We live in an open economics. We need a lot of technical to learn English. Berlitz give us that instruments to teach another area. For example, in economics, please let us know. Thanks. I don't know, but I can figure it out and I'll tell you. I don't know who ask this because he says hello everyone. It doesn't have a name right there. And Jose Manuel, we have to be aware of students' learning styles, even though it will be rough to elaborate lessons plans that will respond to all of their needs. As teachers, we have to come to light, so we will enlighten our students as a result. Perfect. Okay. Now, thank you all for your for sharing with us your experience, your points of view. I'm going to continue to get deeper in this methodology. Okay, the Clil methodology. Okay, as an analysis, I'm going to talk about each author. Okay, so each author has an approach. That means a view of what language is and how it is learned. Every author has its own method. That means ideas on what can be done to teach. And obviously, every author has a framework and techniques or different techniques. That means specific strategies that can be used in the classroom to teach that in that way. Okay, so in a nutshell, we can design this explanation as the approach as a philosophy. We have methods or a target planned set of orderly procedures that are based on a credible approach. We have frameworks and techniques that are the strategies or concrete strategies to reach that goals. Okay, so we're going to see this a little bit deeper in the next sorry. Okay, in the next slide that it's here. So I'm going to talk about a little bit more of Clil, okay? Clil as a method of language acquisition, okay? So talking about the past nutshell that I present, I want you to show you this. For example, we have an approach, the communicative approach, okay? We have three different types of methods. The first one is the communicative language teaching. The next one is the TBL, and the last one is Clil. I'm not going to talk a lot about this because if you saw my colleague's Ana Caballero presentation of last week, she was explaining the whole approach, methodology, frameworks, and techniques thing. But for this, I'm going to focus on what we need to know, that it's the Clil part, okay? We're receiving people from all over the world. Ecuador, Dallas, Chihuahua, Colombia, Chiapas, Ecuador. Leticia Torres from Puebla. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Veracruz, Guanajuato, Guadalajara, Colombia. Thank you all for being here today. Okay, I'm going to continue. So we have the communicative approach. And we have different type of methods, okay, to communicate this. We have, first of all, the communicative language teaching that it's split in two parts. The first one is a technique called language through a text. That technique help us to use a text, or we use a text to practice a language. And if you are users of the University of Dayton publishing books, I'm going to give you an example talking about Imagine books. Do you know the Imagine series? Imagine it's a series developed for elementary. I don't know if you have had the opportunity of teaching with one of our books, but I'm going to talk about this. For example, Imagine books has three different ways of teaching. We have three different materials. We have the student's book, the activity book, and a reader. The most important thing here, or the thing that makes the Imagine book different to another books, it's that we focus the whole learning or teaching learning strategy in the reader part or a reading part. So we have a small reader and we start giving the lesson using that text. That means if we're going to talk about maybe the solar system, we're going to find the first reading of the unit talking about the solar system, so where our students will find the whole target vocabulary, the whole information, without telling them that we're going to see the different planets or the sun or everything, okay? So we're going to see the text, we're going to read, and we're going to focus on developing the lesson by reading that text. So that's the technique called language through a text. Then we have skills-based lesson. That's a framework. And what is the main point of skills-based lesson? It's to give meaningful practice to our students using their receptive and productive skills. Remember, the receptive skills are reading and listening, and the second level we have the productive skills that are more complicated, or you need like a higher level of knowledge because it's when you produce. That means speaking and writing, okay? So for example, for a reading, for an example, we can give a reading to our students, and they can write a story. So they are using both skills, the receptive ones by reading a text, and then the productive ones by writing something particular talking about what they've just read. Okay, so talking about the task-based learning, or the TBL, we have the technique called communicative tasks. Okay, the communicative tasks is using language to create products by communicating. Just how one of you wrote at the chat that we need to develop strategies to help our students to communicate better, or to help them to communicate something by developing products by this technique, right? Communicating. And finally, we have the method of the methodology called Clil, the content language integrated learning, and we split in two different examples. The KWL technique, that is to talk about specific topics, and we can use like a brainstorm, predict and keep track of learning, but just in specific topics. I'll be talking about the KWL technique in a few slides, okay? So I'm not going to get deeper in this topic. Then we have the content-based. This is a framework, and the content-based is developing a language while learning about a specific content area. So I have a question for you, teachers. Have you ever used, or have you ever implemented Clil methodology in your classes? Because I want you to share with you a little bit more about what Clil means. But at this moment, can you tell me or share with us an experience about using Clil in your classes? I can read you. Here says, what do you know about the topic? What would you like to learn about it? And what did you learn? Yes, that's the KWL technique. Right, Adan, thank you so much. Sarah, I have. Can you give us an example, Sarah? Anonymous, yes. Can you give us a small example of how do you implement or use this methodology in your classes? Okay, I'm reading you. Okay, I'm going to start explaining you a little bit more the methodology of Clil. By the time you can write, if you have experienced using this methodology in your classes, okay? I want to say that the principles of Clil are these ones. First of all, language is used to learn as well to communicate. That means that teaching subjects as science, history, geography to students, but not like we traditional learn a language, explaining a structure. We just talk about these subjects and we conduct our students through the foreign language, talking about these topics. That means Clil works because we motivate our students with exciting and fun activities that help them to receive the information and get involved with the different topics without knowing that they are learning, okay? We use different subjects, social studies. For example, I can give you a small example about this. Okay, this is a lesson of today. We're going to talk about human inventions. So you're not telling them to learn a structure of simple present tense, and the structure is subject plus verb plus a complement. And you start like, you have different type of subjects, I, you, he, she. You have the verb in an infinitive form, for example, work, and you have to add a complement. I work late, she works late. That's like a pretty traditional way of learning. That's how I started learning like 20 years ago, okay? So now the thing here with Clil, it's making it easier. So we just expose our students to fun content, to creative content, and let them do with the language, okay? So we say that Clil helps to build knowledge in our students, and we totally know and we believe that all teachers are teachers of language, okay? Let me see if I use Smarty. It's based on Clil. Thanks, Lydia. Yes, Smarty is one of my favorites from University of Dayton Publishing. Yes, we use Clil. Yadira, yes. Alejandro, I usually do this with extra materials and do it in a very creative way. Using creativity, it's a very good way to implement Clil in our classes because you're going to attract the attention of your students with this content. It doesn't mean that all the contents have to be interesting for them, because there's information that they don't want to learn or that they refuse to learn. For example, maths, right? It's not a common subject, or it's the subject that no one wants to learn, but we can teach math, geography, history, chemistry using Clil. Okay, in many of the texts are there Clil activities like art, science, and social studies. Anonymous. Thank you, Adan. Yes, I have. I've taught different subjects by using English, such as math, geography, or history. Perfect. Thank you so much, Adan. Sarah, in example, I used Clil in arts as a way of approaching to pop art. I have also used a way of reviewing the 5 kingdoms, mixing with Pokemon creatures. That's pretty creative, and I think you can attract your students' attention by using interesting topics that are common or actual for them, right? To teach the periods of the President of Ecuador, students are also learn to say the years in English. Okay, thank you so much, Ricardo. Anonymous, my students enjoy more relating with other subjects than learning grammar rules. All the time, I'm anonymous. I can remember when I was studying that I hate grammar because the teacher was always focusing the whole lessons in grammar. Like, for example, how to use verbs with third person, or add the s at the simple present tense when you have he, she, and it. Third person, everything. So I used to hate grammar rules. In my English classes, I have done some science experiments using specific words, target language, Sarah, and the scientific method. Example, making predictions. Perfect. Leah, my students enjoy when we work with body and dialogues. Thanks. There are some activities in which we can involve science in English. Of course, we have a lot of materials developed by University of Dayton. Well, I think one of those, I don't know if you have worked with them, the case arts and crafts and case science, where you mix arts, crafts, or science with teaching English, and it's pretty interesting for our students using this methodology to learn. Fidel, in class we were learning about Earth was affected by pollution. We studied about pollution in Bukai and watched videos about the problem in our community. We checked on internet about pollution in rivers and how to pure water. We made the experiment with the help of our biology teacher in the lab. That sounds pretty interesting, Fidel. What level or which level do you teach? Elementary, secondary? Students expose the results and how to prevent pollution. Perfect. That's when you apply the knowledge, okay? Sarah, also a light project in second grade using the jigsaw diagram strategy. Perfect. We're going to talk about that later. Okay, the jigsaw. I've taught third grade children using Click, and the results were much participation since they didn't pay attention to grammar. Perfect. That's true. We have to develop different strategies, teachers, because our students nowadays get distracted with almost everything. I use brainstorming before the students create their own concepts or ideas. We use arts and crafts in our school. I love arts and crafts, Anonymous. Selena, I think that I have applied it in my area that it's preschool. We use a lot of the body and movements in addition to focusing on a subject, trying to make it attractive. You work with the smaller ones, with the younger ones. That's pretty cool because you have like many different materials to develop with them. Maholi, yes, when I teach them content about different knowledge fields like biology, geology, history, but using English as a medium. For example, I have thought about vertebrates, invertebrates, animals, how what synapses form, and among others. Perfect. Using Clil can increase your students' motivation since you are not focusing on structures. That's totally true, Adam. In my class, I use experiments, and Melissa, in our case, all of the science classes in every level are taught in English. That's clear, Melissa. Thank you so much. Okay, so thanks all of you for sharing your opinion and sharing your experiences. This is pretty cool to us because we can all learn about what you are sharing, okay? So now I want to put a video and let's watch it so I can finally get deeper into the topic, okay? I'm going to start with this, just a little second. Give me a second. Okay. Ready? Okay, I'm going back through the presentation. Okay, perfect. So, content as a driver of learning. After this, I have a question for you teachers. How do we learn? After watching a video, okay? This example with Dumbo. Which aspects involve language? Because I'm going to explain this later, but first I need you to share with us, how do you think in the video Dumbo it's learning? How do we learn? I use games with my students to learn the parts of the body. Okay, Valeria. I'm going to wait a few seconds so you can share with us, how do we learn after watching a video? I want to read your comments, teachers. By practicing with the help of others. Okay, Fabi, Dumbo didn't have theory, just practice, okay? Cooperative learning, right, Fidel? Anyone else that wants to share with us? Okay, so how do we learn? Okay, I want to show you this part. We have here a picture talking about two different factors, okay? The internal and the external. And we have content, interaction, and motivation, okay? So I'm going to start explaining. When we talk about external content, I'm going to talk about Dumbo's video. When we talk about the external content, it's for example, it's all the information and knowledge that Dumbo has before the situation that he's living, okay? In case of our students, when we talk about the external content, it's when they have information and knowledge that has in their brains, but they don't use it, okay? They have the content. The external one, it's when the teacher shows you the theory, or in this case, when the mouse tells Dumbo up and down, up and down. The mouse was giving him the theory, right? Dumbo didn't know how to do it, but he was receiving the theory, and by the same time, he was trying or practicing how to fly by moving their ears up and down, right? So the next factor is the interaction. In this case, we have the internal, that it's interaction with myself. That means being conscious of my abilities and my limitations as a student. And the external interactions, that means when you are sharing or in the same environment, sharing with others, in this case, the classmates, or in this case, the birds, okay? So Dumbo was interacting in an external way with the birds and with the mouse. And finally, we have the motivation. Motivation in both ways, internal and external. That means internal motivation, it's, for example, my self-motivation. It means as a student, which is the machine that moves myself to learn a new language, or which is my motor to move me to do something, okay? So self-motivation, how do I see myself? And the external motivation, it's what the birds were doing, okay? They were encouraging or challenging and having fun with Dumbo. So how do we learn? We learn by mixing the internal and the external factors based on the content, the interaction, and the motivation. So which aspects involve language? All of them, the internal and the external, talking about the three different points that we set on here: content, interaction, and motivation. Okay? Any question until here? Here says Alejandro, he learned by motivation and practice. Right. Leah, with practice and external motivation. Veronica, sharing ideas about the video in cooperative groups. Manuel, we create a good environment and atmosphere. Visual? Could be, because he's learning about an instruction, just about watching. Dumbo was looking or watching the mouse doing the up and down movement, right? Bernardo, well, depends on the activities, but most of the time it should be with the practice. Self-motivation, learn by doing. He learned by what he was seeing. Yes, Elena, he was looking to the mouse, and the mouse was doing the activity, and that's how Dumbo learned. And obviously acting or doing or practicing. Diana, we learn when we are interested in something, right? But it doesn't mean that when we doesn't or when we are not interested in something, we're not gonna learn, because that's why we as teachers have to implement different strategies to help our students learn without loving or without being interested in one topic, okay? Interacting with others, with the content, and finding sense to what I need to learn. No sound in the video. In my English class, I use these methodologies. Thanks, Celeste. Well, we can to ask me questions to students in order to check if they understand. Then I can check COM values in this video. Okay, motivation, the most important. As a second plan, when you enjoy and get fun, yes. By practicing imitation, teamwork, body language, motivation from others. You can describe the actions, positions, then the characters are doing. They learn by the example of others, by interacting each other. We learn by applying the general knowledge or theoric learning in the real context. Marisela says by practicing and interacting. Perfect. Interact, real life, model examples, brainstorm, cooperative learning. I think that many students learn when something gets our attention and motivation. Yes, and that's our job as teachers, to set the students' attention to develop an activity, use creative and motivate them, okay? Those are the basis of Clil, okay? To motivate our students and to develop on them the abilities of learning with the different strategies that we are offering to them, okay? So now, thank you all for your comments. Now, teachers, we're going to talk about Clil applications, okay? First, we have applications to learn new vocabulary, of course, by using different topics, by using different type of lessons, as we said, talking about art, talking about history, talking about solar system, talking about geography, rivers, the seas, transportation, I don't know, any topic, okay? We learn or we apply Clil as to learn language functions, what students do with the language as they engage with content and interact with others. with type of text, using different type of text that are interesting for them and creative, as all of us just read here in the chat. Remember, I don't know who said that, but one of you teachers shared with us that one of your strategies is to motivate your students and to use creative information or creative topics to develop your students' attention and motivation to do an activity. Okay, now Clil for listening content. Clil for interact, or by interact with the language. That means be with the language or do with the language. And finally, to develop projects using the information that our students learn and personalizing that information and using it to create or to design a project using the whole knowledge that they just received. Okay, so those are one of our Clil applications. I want to talk about a little bit of Clil benefits. For example, we can have cultural awareness or develop cultural awareness, internationalization, the language competences. We develop language competences. We not just prepare our students for study or for school, not only for studying, but also for working life in the future. That's how Clil works. And Clil benefits is to increase our students' motivation in doing stuff or doing new stuff, or to participate in new activities with the students, and to enrich the classes through our students' motivation. Okay, so as Maria said, we get our students' attention and motivation. Perfect. And don't forget that Clil's lessons use the 4 skills combined to learn and discuss the listening, reading, speaking, and writing skills. Okay, now I have a comment right here, Priscilla. I think a video is a clear example of interaction. It is easy to have the attention of the students, and after that interact with them by asking and answering, imitating what you see, or discussing points of view with class using your knowledge and language. And you complete the whole process of Clil applications, right? You develop vocabulary, the language function, using different type of text. In this case, it's a video, listening content, interact, and then use that information to develop a project. Thank you, Priscilla, for your comment. Now, another Clil applications. We can develop Clil by immersion. That means instruction and regular interactions only in second language. By bilingualism, it means learn and use 2 languages equally, but one at a time. This is what some schools do nowadays, right? I attend different schools that use or immersion or bilingualism. That means, for example, the bilingualism, when you teach, for example, Spanish, well, they have the native language Spanish, in this case in Mexico, and they are learning English. That means introducing Clil is use both language. For example, the school schedule is split in 6 hours, 3 hours speaking Spanish, and 3 hours teaching English by science, math, history, or any program you want to develop. And you use equally both languages, but without mixing them, because that happens a lot, and more with the younger students, because, for example, when you have students from elementary or kindergarten, and they are accustomed to listen Spanish in their houses and practicing English in their school. So sometimes they are they mix the both languages trying to communicate. So just to get focused on this, to develop Clil and bilingualism, we have to split or use the both languages, but in equal time, okay? And we have Clil to develop for specific purposes. That means when we use the language to talk about business or to learn about economic, marketing, science, tourism, or any topic, okay? Like technique English. So now I have a few questions for you. I want you to participate in the chat and answer like this, like 1, true, 2, false, 3, true. Okay, so just put like 1T, 2T, 3F. So I want you to discuss, and we're going to discuss these statements. So true or false? It's important that students like and understand the content they are supposed to learn. The teachers has to know the content well. The students should never use Spanish in a Clil lesson. So after the whole explanation that I gave, tell me, teachers, are these statements true or false? I'll give you a few seconds so you can share with us. I'm here to read you. Comments. 1 false, 1 true, 1 false, 1 true, true, false, false, true. Okay. 1 second. 1 false, true, I'm not sure. Okay, true, false. Okay, let's see. It's important that students like and understand the content they are supposed to learn, not necessary. So it's not important. It's false. The answer is false because sometimes you are going to develop a topic that it's not important or it's not creative, or just your students is not interested in that topic, and that doesn't mean that he's not going to learn, because he has or we have to develop different strategies to get our students' attention. So no matter if the topic it's creative or it's or they like the lesson, they're going to learn. That's not true. Okay, the teacher has to know the content well. That's false too, because it's impossible to know about everything. Okay, as a teacher, for example, if I want to teach something about chemistry, I don't really like chemistry. So it doesn't mean that if I'm going to develop a class using chemistry or teaching chemistry, that means that I have to know the content well. No, but I have to follow the lesson. I have all the materials. For example, University of Dayton, with all the books that it develops, they put the company puts in all the books at the very beginning the structure of how to follow it to develop the whole class. So you don't know to be an expert in a topic. You just need to follow the instructions of the book to complete the whole lessons. And the last one, it's false, because you can use Spanish just in special cases, as I told you. If you share with your students the environment, the whole, you explain them in a whole environment of information, and they don't understand, even you are trying, you can translate. Okay, so it's helpful when you need it. Okay, now thank you all for your answers. So all of them are false. Okay, so now teaching content, teaching language. We can see here the different traditional strategies that I'm pretty sure you have used them. For example, lecturing or students' presentations or individual reading and questions or watching videos. Those traditional strategies are pretty common for us because are implicit in our books or are explained in our content of all the books or all the materials that we use to teach, right? So which alternative strategies do we have using Clil or implementing Clil to our classes? One of the most common or one of my favorites is the Kwl chart that one of you was explaining to us in the chat. Another strategy is to use a Cornell style reading or the jigsaw reading that one of you told me too that it's pretty common in your classes, or the problem solving or case studies, or using WebQuest. Okay, so those are alternative strategies for you using Clil. What is the KWL chart? The KW chart, it's used to know what I know at this moment, what I want to know in a short future, and what I've learned at the end of the lesson. This is pretty useful because it's a graphical organizer that helps us learning better. Okay, so what I know now, what I want to know, and at the end of the lesson, what did I learn? Okay, the next one, you can use the Cornell style reading. This is a method of a systematic format for considering and organizing notes. Notes from a lecture, or it consists in the main ideas or to focus on the main ideas of a text and then write it down. We have like two columns. The first column says like keywords, and the other one are the notes that I write about the topic. Okay, so the Cornell style strategy, it's a very good idea to develop. Obviously, you have to set and focus on the level of your students, because these type of activities you cannot develop in kindergarten, right? You can develop it in elementary, but in higher levels or in secondary or high school. Then we have the jigsaw reading that someone of you told me in the chat that you used to use this technique, right? And the jigsaw reading emphasizes in cooperative learning by helping each other to build comprehension. That means you can use a text, a small text, you cut it and you share the text with your students, and you help them to develop the collaborative learning about or focus on completing the whole story or the whole text by sharing experiences and information. Okay, we have another one that it's the problem solving or the case studies, that it's the act of defining a problem and determining a cause of the problem, and then identifying some alternatives of solution and then implement the solution. Okay, so those strategies could be useful for you, obviously adapting to your level, as I said a few minutes ago. And the last one that I want to share with you is the WebQuest. Have you ever used a WebQuest? WebQuest is when our students get all the information from the web. Obviously, we have to orient them, because we're going to share with them links, we're going to share with them web pages, and that support the critical thinking through analyzing and creating new knowledge from checking the links and checking the information. Obviously, we have a pretty important thing here that we have to focus on, and it's the trustworthy information, because they have a lot of information and they have to be capable of filtering that information to use it in the class or to solve a subject or an activity. Okay, so I'm going to continue asking you more questions about it's a fact or it's a myth. So you can help me answering in the chat, but do it like this. In the same answer, put the four questions with F or M, or fact or myth. Homework helps learning. It's a fact or it's a myth. Students learn better in smaller classes. The color of a classroom walls impacts learning. The TOEFL, it's a fair measure of your English level. I want to read you, please. What do you think, teachers, about homework? Does it help learning? Barbara, one is a myth. Homework helps learning. What else? I want to read you, teachers. Why is a myth, Barbara? Homework helps learning. I'll tell you why. Because sometimes you give to your students homework and the parents help the student to develop the activity, or the student uses internet or some information to develop the activity for homework. So it's not necessary. It's not necessary to do the homework to learn, right? You can learn without doing homework. You can learn just by developing the activities, by getting involved with the environment, with the whole text or the whole activity that you are developing in class with your classmates or with your students as a teacher, obviously. So homework, it's a myth. It's not necessary that your student is going to learn by doing homework. Okay? Myth, fact, and myth. Myth, fact. Myth, fact, myth, myth. Myth, fact. Okay? I'm receiving your answers. Perfect. As I told you, homework helps learning. It's a myth, not necessary. It's not necessarily. Students learn better in smaller classes. Myth, because they can learn with big groups. For example, I teach to students in classes between 40 and 80 students. So they learn? Yes, they learn. By the time I'm implementing good strategies, they will learn. The color of a classroom walls impact learning. Kind of a myth, because there's the psychology of color. I don't know if you have heard about this, that it says that colors like white or green or light green or light yellow will help you to better learn, but it's not proof yet, okay? And a myth, the last one, because the TOEFL test, it's not a fair measure, because TOEFL test doesn't score your writing skills and your speaking skills, so it's not a fair measure because it just evaluates the other two abilities. So all of them are myths, okay? Now, scaffolding content. How can I develop a lesson with Clil? First of all, I have to set objectives. Then I have to define an assessment, and then choose the activities to help to reach the objectives or the goals of the session. Okay, so how can I set objectives? First of all, I have to ask myself, what can my students do? What things do they need to know, and what points can they connect? That means the theory and the practice. So what can they connect? How or what they have learned in my classes, or what can they do nowadays or in this moment? For example, talking about ways of transportation. What can they do now? Do they know anything about the ways of transportation? Do they know what a car is, what a bicycle is, what a plane is? So to set objectives, you have to know where are you now and what do they have to know, so you can develop the different lessons, so you can reach the goals of that lesson. Okay. I have used the Cornell method and it caused great impact not only to practice English, it helped with some other subjects too. Perfect, Evelyn. Thank you. From Ecuador. After setting an objective, you have to adapt the content goals. For example, I have an example, clear example here. Adapt a content. Objective, students will be able to explain the nitrogen cycle and its impact on ecosystems. Then, how can I evaluate? Evaluation, a final task that requires knowledge, ability, and understanding. And activities, learn knowledge, practice doing, and prepare to show understanding. So that's how I'm going to adapt the content goals. Scaffolding tasks, the adaptations of the activities that you will develop should be focused on the task complexity, because you have to know the level of complexity that the activity will have is not the same to describe a situation than correlate. Okay. Then we have to adapt the cognitive complexity. It's not the same read than write, for example, because some of the abilities are receptive skills and the other ones are productive skills. So we have to adapt the cognitive complexity. We have to adapt the expected independence that the students will develop in the activity and the expected accuracy. Okay, so we have to adapt these to develop our Clil activities. Now, how can I teach language with Clil? Okay, first of all, I have to anticipate the language needs, focusing on the meanings, right? Not just translate to them, or not just tell them a structure of what are we going to learn in this class or in this lesson. We just need to focus on the meaning of the words, creating the whole environment of learning. We have to use coping strategies, for example, the non-linguistic strategies. That means not telling them with words something. You can play a video, or you can use different strategies to communicate the information, but not in a linguistic way. We have the pre-teaching vocabulary, the target vocabulary that we need to develop in the lesson. We have the peer teaching, when you have a small group of students and they teach each other a lesson. Or we have a copy strategy called Smart Spanish, that is when we use Spanish in the last case, or you use the translation to Spanish when they don't understand something, but just in the last case. Okay, so Smart Spanish is using Spanish in a smart way to translate them after they don't understand something of the lesson. We have the guided approach to use the receptive skills and then help them to process the approach to use productive skills. Okay, so Process grading. To help to develop the grading process, we need to create a context, provide them with vocabulary, help them to set up a process or analyze a model, perform the task, and feedback and extension. I don't know if you have heard about the 5 stages to develop the grading process, that it's help them to create or to write a text with a 5 steps or a 5 stages process. It's using pre-writing, then the drafting, then revising, editing, and at the end you publish the grading. Okay, it's a process to help them to develop the skill of writing. Productive skills, remember. Then we have the error correction. How can I correct my students? We have different strategies. For example, pointing out the error by repetition or with the finger correction. I don't know if you have used this one. It's when you use like you lift a finger when you hear or you see a error or a mistake, and you do this because it's 1 mistake, 2 mistakes, 3 mistakes, and then you after that you explain them the mistakes or the errors that they have. We have the sentence team, when you repeat the sentence and they can figure out the error. We have peer correction, that it's when you focus or you find the error by sharing with another classmate. We have the delayed error correction, or the recasting or reformulating the sentence so the student can be conscious about the error that he just made. Okay, so those strategies that I share with you for communicate, for writing, for teaching language are pretty useful to develop a class with Clil. Okay, so just to reflect our roles, to finish this session of today, teachers, I have a few questions just to share, and I want you to read your answers. How can we motivate students to learn content in English? When it's okay to use Spanish in Clil classes? Do teachers have to become experts in the content they teach? Where have I found elements of Clil teaching in my programs? Okay, I want to read you. We have a few minutes to do this. And I want you to write the answers of these 4 questions, or 1 question. If you want to answer question number 1, we are open to read it. If you want to answer question number 2, we are open. So you have the chat here. Práctica e interacción motiva al alumno, bueno, para implementar en clase. We learn by imitation. Okay, what else? But not always. Sometimes homework can help, okay? What else? I want to read you. Anyone else? Okay, in my personal experience, music is the biggest tool I've been using for a couple of years. Okay, Mike, in which level? Paulina, learners out to practice everything. Talking about error corrections, you are right. We have to say the wrong sentences into right sentences. When teachers teach, they ask open-ended questions. For example, what do you do for a living? Teacher says, I work as an English teacher, okay? Sara, Predicting, playing with the content. Okay, we definitely have to find out what kind of content is relevant for students so we can take advantage of it and use Clil. Motivation, we have to use innovative materials, using materials or topics that catch their attention, like series, comics, music. Perfect. By using games, using technology, when we have a problem in understanding each other. Okay, yes, that's the answer for when it's okay to use Spanish. Perfect, Sara. One, by making a product, creating. Manuela, using videos and discuss about it. Fidel, with strategies, motivating our students with strategies. It's okay, last resource, perfect. Teachers have to become experts. No, just follow the book, perfect. Maholi, by having them doing hands-on activities. Answer for question number 1. Teachers can be changed voices when they are reading. Games, fun activities. To motivate your students, you need to create better and different exercises. Yes. Sarah, number 1, including familiar examples. 2, when you have used all the strategies or the concepts, is too important or difficult to be understood. Okay. Number 3, not experts, but expert in transmitting. Perfect. That's right. And especially our contextual learning, error correction, peer correction. Okay. Margarita, I like to use vocabulary, games, videos, and some comics. We can motivate our students. Use Spanish is okay when they can get the meaning of or the idea. No, teachers don't have to become experts. No somos sabelo todo, right? Videos and using creative materials and a lot of answers. Use Spanish as a last resource. We don't have to be experts. 80 students, wow, I work with 50 kids and I thought that was difficult. I have had 120, Patricia. By projects, watching videos and listening to English songs, okay. Well, we can be an excellent model to follow. That means creative or interesting. Okay, we have a lot of answers right here. Thank you so much, teachers. Sara Fernandez, number 4, when our students are happy, motivated, and confident. Veronica, when it's okay to use Spanish. Using Spanish is important when students cannot understand clearly some things about any classes, but not all the time. Perfect. Thank you so much to all of you for your answers, teachers. And finally, this is the end of the presentation. Okay, so I want you to know if you have any questions. We have about 3 or 4 minutes to answer some questions. So I am open. If I cannot answer the whole questions right now, we will try to do it by email or something. But if you have any questions, please share here with Abdel. And the last part of this presentation is to thank you all for your time, and don't forget about answering the survey of today's lesson, today's presentation. Okay. Okay, I don't know if you have talked about the forces of Clil. No, not in this session, but yes, the 4 C's of Clil are, I have it right here. I didn't comment it, Sarah, because I didn't have enough time. This presentation, it's so long. But the four C's of Clil are content, communication, cognition, and culture. So I don't get deep on that topic. Anonymous, excellent job, Miss. Thank you so much. Thank you for the ideas. I've been listening to all these virtual classes, and sorry. And and it's fine. Now, let me see. Let me see, this is so big. Just 1 second, so I'm reading. I think your explanation pretty well covered the topic. Thank you. I don't know if the 4 C's. You can use Clil with everything. Just use your imagination. Yes. Paulina, thanks a million. Thank you for this workshop. So Clil is open to any creative way of learning, almost all of them. Yes, we have to use motivation, creativity to develop the different lessons without teaching like the whole structure, just involve our students in the whole environment of learning. Vito, thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for your exposition, Ileana. Thanks. I'm from Querétaro. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for sharing. Warm hugs. So sorry, but what is your full name, please? Ileana Elizabeth Ruvalcaba Rivas. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Very good information. Great exposition. Thank you. I can see very well the link. Please, can you show us again? Yes, of course. Let me check. Here. That's a full link. I like it so much. Thanks a lot. Thanks very much. Don't forget to answer the survey, please. The best for you. Thanks for everything. You're welcome. Thank you. So thank you all teachers for being here today and to be open to receive new knowledge and to share your and my experiences here together in this workshop. I hope you can use this information to improve your classes and to develop better strategies with your students. So thank you so much and you have all a great day.
Thank you, Ileana, for all your knowledge sharing with us very good ideas, great tips and strategies for us to teach in our classroom once we'll get back. And a couple of announcements. I hope everyone can see the chat box. We had also the link there so you can all answer the survey. It is very important to us to have your feedback so we can improve every day. And I see you tomorrow at the same time. We're going to have a very interesting topic about early literacy. Just be aware of our social nets. We're going to post the information and the links for tomorrow. So thank you again for joining us on behalf of Grupo SM and University of Data and Publishing. I wish you the best. Be safe and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.